Have you ever felt like you're just trying to get through life without a map? You're looking for some kind of clear, practical guide to handle all the ups and downs? Well, it turns out that thousands of years ago, an ancient philosophy laid out exactly that, a really detailed roadmap for the mind. So let's explore what it has to offer.
You know, at the very heart of this ancient wisdom is a really profound question. Is there a practical, step-by-step way to navigate and maybe even end all the stress, the dissatisfaction, and the suffering that we all experience? The answer it provides is a pretty resounding yes.
And that answer is what's called the Noble Eightfold Path. In Buddhist philosophy, this is presented as the ultimate solution. It's actually the fourth of the Four Noble Truths. And it's not a set of commandments you have to follow. Think of it more like a path of practice, a way to train ourselves to find freedom from what's called dukkha, which is this deep, fundamental sense of dissatisfaction. So this path is actually organized into 3 interconnected stages, and they all build on each other. We're going to start with wisdom, which is the foundation of just seeing clearly. Then we move to ethical conduct, where we actually put that wisdom into practice. And finally, we get to mental discipline, which is the inner training that makes both of the other 2 stronger. And here they are, all 8 of these interconnected practices. Now, it's not a linear sequence, where you master one and then move on to the next. You should think of them more like the strands of a rope. They all work together, intertwined, to create real strength. So let's start unspooling them.
All right, first up, part 1, the foundation of wisdom, or Panna in the original Pali language. This is really where everything begins. Before you can walk the path, you first have to be able to see it clearly.
And that first step is called right view. Now, this isn't about just adopting a new belief system. It's about learning to see the nature of reality just as it is. You could almost think of it as getting the right diagnosis before you can find the cure.
So what does that really mean? Well, it means clearly understanding 4 things. First, that suffering exists. Second, what causes it, which is often our own craving and aversion. Third, understanding that it can end. And fourth, that this eightfold path is the way to do it. This understanding really provides the why for the entire journey.
So, once you have that right view, you need right intention. This is the commitment, it's the personal resolve to align your heart and your mind with that new understanding. It's all about purifying your motivations and pointing them in a much more wholesome direction.
And this really boils down to 3 specific aims. First, an intention of renunciation, which is just the desire to let go of unhealthy craving. Second, an intention of goodwill, kindness towards all beings. And third, an intention of harmlessness, which is really a deep commitment to compassion. So, with our view and our intention set, let's see how this all translates into our actual conduct.
Welcome to Part 2, Right Conduct, or Sila. This is where our inner wisdom and our intentions get translated into how we actually act in the world, in what we say, and in our physical actions.
First up is right speech. We often really underestimate the power of our words, but this path recognizes that speech can be a source of great harm or great healing. And wow, in an age of social media and constant communication, this is more relevant than ever, right? The practice here is all about learning to use our words skillfully.
The guidelines here are crystal clear. It means abstaining from lying, from speech that creates division between people, from harsh or abusive language, and even from that pointless gossip that just wastes time and can cause all sorts of subtle harm. It's really about making our communication purposeful and kind.
Next up in our section on conduct is right action. So this is about applying those same ethical principles, but this time to our physical behavior. It's all about making sure our actions are rooted in compassion and a real respect for life.
And the practice here boils down to 3 core ethical commitments. First, to abstain from killing or harming living beings. Second, to refrain from stealing or taking anything that isn't freely given. And third, to avoid sexual misconduct that causes harm to ourselves or to others.
The final piece of our ethical conduct puzzle is right livelihood. And this takes ethics right into our 9 to 5. It means earning a living through honest means, in a profession that doesn't cause harm. The crucial point here is that our work should be an expression of our values, not a contradiction of them.
And now for the final section, Part 3, Mental Discipline, or Samadhi. This is the deep inner work. This is the training ground of the mind itself, where we develop the focus and the awareness we need to sustain our wisdom and our conduct.
We begin this section with right effort. Think of this as the engine of the path. It's the conscious, energetic practice of mental cultivation, of actively working with our thoughts and emotions instead of just letting them run the show.
And this isn't just some vague positive thinking. It's a really practical, four-part strategy. First, you work to prevent unwholesome states, like anger or jealousy, from even arising. If they do pop up, your second job is to abandon them. Third, you actively cultivate wholesome states, think generosity or kindness. And fourth, once those positive states are there, you nurture them. It's a whole program for mental fitness.
Okay, next is right mindfulness, a term I'm sure many of us have heard. In this context, it's the practice of keeping our awareness anchored right here, in the present moment, observing our inner and outer world with real clarity and without judgment. It's the art of being fully here.
This deep awareness is developed by methodically paying attention to four key areas. We start with the body, just noticing sensations, like the feeling of our own breath. Then we observe our feelings as they arise and pass, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant. We also watch the mind itself. Is it agitated or is it calm? And finally, we observe our thoughts without getting carried away by them. Together, this creates this incredible 360-degree awareness.
And finally, we arrive at right concentration. You know, if mindfulness is the act of holding the flashlight of awareness, well, concentration is the act of steadying that beam on a single point. It's the ability to unify the mind, and it leads to these profound states of calm and insight.
In deep meditation, this concentration allows the mind to enter these really profound states of absorption, known as the jhanas. And as this slide shows, the mind moves through stages. It goes from an initial joy that's born of letting go, to a deeper calm that's free from distracting thoughts, then to a state of profound balance and equanimity, and finally, to a state of pure, unshakable mindfulness. This is considered the absolute peak of mental training on this path.
And so we come full circle. This entire system, from wisdom to conduct to mental discipline, is, as the ancient texts conclude, the path itself. It's not just a theory, but it's the practical, lived experience that leads to the end of suffering.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with a question to reflect on. Looking at this ancient roadmap, from your views and intentions to your speech, your actions, and your inner mental work, which one of these 8 paths feels the most relevant, the most needed in your life right now?